Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Wendy Bolin. I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies and also the co-chair of the Fall 2020 Planning Task Force. I'm here tonight with my colleagues across campus, and we're here with the goal of really talking to you about our fall planning, some of the processes and the efforts that have gone behind it, and also to address so many of the questions that have been posed to us. They're fantastic questions, and we want to make sure that we are hearing your concerns and addressing as many of those as we can tonight. I will stress to you that this is a very collaborative process. This is a process that is changing every day. You know that just simply because of the guidelines. We've seen phased openings, we've seen phases kind of closing backwards because of spikes. And what we know is that every day is a new day. And as a university, what we're trying to do is to make sure that we are being flexible, that we are being responsive, and that we are able to respond to anything that happens. There is nothing that we hope for more than to bring everyone back to campus as safely, healthy as possible, to return to what we all want is a normal campus experience. And that is absolutely all of our goal. At the same time, we really know that we have to make sure that everyone's health and safety is at the center of every decision that we make, because that is the most important thing right now. And so that has been the focus for all of us as we have looked to understand where all of our community is, but especially our students and what our students are looking for. And what we've heard from our students is that we know, and joining us tonight, even our international students that are in different places and all over the world. And that's amazing. And thank you for joining us. We have students that some of those students won't actually be able to get back to campus because of visa issues or other issues. And we understand that. And we look for when you can get back to campus. We also have students who may be domestic or closer that might have an easier time getting back, but for a variety of reasons can't get back to campus in the fall. And we understand that too. And then we have a group of students too that say we want to be on campus, and we know it will be different. We know it will look different and it will feel different, but we just want to be back together, interacting with our faculty and our peers, our community, you know, going into our computer labs and our research labs and trying to move forward in what we would call the most normal way possible, given this global pandemic that we've had to deal with, something that none of us ever expected to deal with, and that we were trying to really carefully navigate. So I want to thank you. I want to tell you that we are working on this every day, that we are trying to respond to everything that's changing quickly. And we want to make sure that we're delivering top quality education to all of our students, making sure that they can move forward with their degrees, with their internships, with their practicums, with their experience to the best of our ability, and doing this in the safest way possible. So we appreciate this, and with that, what I'd like to do is I'd actually like to start. We had a variety of questions that were posed to us already, and so we feel that these are questions that it's a broad set of questions that people are really interested in. We're going to start there and address those, and I'll be bringing in my colleagues as we work through this process, and then what we will do is hopefully we'll have some time at the end for some additional questions. And we do have a great team of people looking at those questions and making sure we're going to get to as many of those as possible. So with that, I wanted to first begin by addressing some of the concerns or questions around courses this fall. Many of you have asked, are the courses online? Can my student be completely online? Do they have to be face-to-face? And this really goes back to the beginning where I said that in trying to develop our plans for the fall, it was really about making sure that we were trying to meet each student where they were and what that student needed. So your student absolutely can choose to go all online in the fall. We are working with our faculty to make sure that all of our courses have online components, that our courses are designed in a way to deliver top quality education and delivering all on the course objectives and learning objectives of the course, and that they will be flexible to respond to the potential for some students if they wanted to be in the classroom, but also to make sure that our students who are in our virtual communities coming in online can make sure to participate and fully complete those degrees. In doing that, we are designing our curriculum around ways for that flexibility to make sure that our students can all access the information, can rewatch information, but also that a lot of our online classrooms are going to involve live synchronous classes. Classes where students will be interacting with their peers, and even though it's in a virtual format, that they will be interacting with their peers, with their faculty, and being able to really expand upon all of the knowledge that they're learning within their classes. So when we talk about an online curriculum, it's very important that we make sure everyone understands that this is not something where students will just go and watch videos. At the same time, too, there will be courses that will be designed more for students that might be in different time zones, that geographically may not be able to participate in those live sessions. And in doing that, we have to use our best design tools and work with our instructional designers and the whole team that we have hired and brought in for this fall to really plan to make sure that those students are getting a fantastic experience also, and that we can use the wonderful tools at our fingertips now to ensure that. You know, I often think about, wow, what would it have been like if this happened 20 years ago, right? We would have never been able to move our degrees forward. And so we are working together. We are making sure we have brought in the best set of resources to ensure this. And this is very different. It's a very different approach than what happened in March, when we had to very quickly respond and convert residential courses to the online modality. Now, I think our faculty in general did a fantastic job, but the process was different. This is a different process, and actually using tools, resources, knowledge, people that know how to do this well, and planning our courses out in that manner. And that allows us the ability to move between modalities, to allow some face-to-face, and also to move into live synchronous online and also asynchronous content. In saying that, what percentage, so we've had a lot of questions about what percentage of courses will be online. What we are doing right now, and I can't give you an exact percentage, but what we are doing right now is our faculty are working with their courses and their content to say, based on the content and the delivery of my course, what makes the most sense in terms of modality and delivery for that course. In doing that, our faculty, for example, faculty that run science labs, may come back to us and say, you know, I can deliver a lot of my lecture material in the online space, but I will need more face-to-face times for maybe some of my science labs. Now, I will tell you, we've had some real success doing some science labs virtually, so I don't want to tell you that that's the only way to do it, but we do know that a lot of our students that are residential want the opportunity to be able to go into the lab and participate in these things. This is the same for a lot of our art students that want to be able to go into the studio and be able to create and have some space. And so part of our plan is making sure that our students get access to these resources if they're local. And then making sure that how do we give students who aren't local access to similar resources. So while I don't have an exact percentage, what we know is that a small number of our courses will be delivered in the purely online, what we would call asynchronous content. This is the content that does not require live sessions. We believe a vast majority of our classes will be in the blended modality, which will be online, with a large percentage of those live synchronous sessions where students will be interacting with their faculty and their peers in live sessions. And also, these courses will have a handful of face-to-face components, face-to-face opportunities, face-to-face class time. So what we're hoping is that our students have an array of opportunities to be on campus throughout the semester, to work in classes throughout the semester. But then they will also have access to a variety of our resources, including all of our labs, our different spaces, studios, and all of that, to come together with friends, to work on different projects, and to advance their learning. In addition, we'll be providing a skills institute of additional skills and workshops for all of our students. These some may be for credit, but the vast majority will just be courses to expand the knowledge of all of our students, to help prepare them for career readiness, and to just add to the overall skill set that they have already, to really use all of the resources within our alumni, resources within our staff and our faculty, to be able to share that with our students, to say, we know this is a different landscape right now. We know that things have changed educationally, but we can still share all of this knowledge with you to really add to all that you're learning in the classroom. So some questions are, well, when will my student know exactly the modality of the courses that they're signed up for? What we're hoping is that in the next few weeks, we're going to give ourselves about 3 weeks. We want our faculty to really start to look at how they would plan out and work with our designers about the number of face-to-face, live sessions, asynchronous sessions, and really think about that. Once we have our information back from our faculty, and I can promise you they're working really hard on that right now, we will then go on and through our registration system and also through our Blackboard courses where the course information is up for our students, we will start to populate information to students about what the main format of each class will be. We also expect that our faculty will start to reach out to the students, and we hope that all of the students will start to communicate back to us. We will be asking about what do you think your plans will be for the fall, so we can plan our courses appropriately also. If we learn that there's a course where all of the students in that course will be coming in online and streaming it online, then we don't have to reserve a classroom space for that, and we can use the classroom space for another course. So we will be communicating, and we hope that our students and our families and our faculty, that we're all communicating with each other to work through this and make the best possible experience for all of us. I am going to ask my colleague, Dean Jessica Waters, to talk to us a little bit about could a student defer or take a leave of absence? And also, could you talk a little bit about any plans for AU abroad, both in the fall and then in the spring? Thanks.
Thank you, Dean Boland. Hi, my name is Jessica Waters. I'm the Dean of Undergraduate Education and Vice Provost for Academic Student Services. I'm also a double Eagle, so I earned both my undergraduate and my law degree from AU. On the first question, the question of if my student elects to not come to AU in the fall, what are the options? First, I would say we strongly encourage any student considering either deferring for incoming first-year students or taking a leave of absence for our continuing students to spend some time really thinking through those options with their academic advisors. We want to make sure that you are prioritizing your health and safety, but also really thinking through four-year academic planning and what does it mean for my four-year academic plan if I take a semester off, right? So we want to make sure that you're making those decisions in concert with us and working with your academic advisors and working with your financial aid advisors. An incoming student, so a new first-year student who decides they would rather not attend AU in the fall or for the first year, does have the option of applying for a deferral. The deferrals do need to be submitted to the Office of Admissions by July 1st, and importantly, they need to be intentional. So you would need to, in that application, describe to us what you will be doing during that year off. Sometimes it could be a religious activity or a community service obligation that a student does over the course of the year, but we really need to understand what it is that you will be doing that will be enriching your experience over that first year. So for a student who is looking to not come to AU at all, incoming first year students in the fall or spring, you need to apply by July 1st. Typically, if the deferral is granted, that merit aid and financial aid packages will be continued, but really important that you talk to an academic advisor and apply by July 1st and fully consider the financial aid implications with a financial aid advisor. Our returning students do have the option, if they elect to take temporary leaves. A temporary leave can be up to a year. Again, this is something that you'd want to do in concert with your academic advisor. Really think through, what does this mean for my classes? You know, noting that, as Dean Boland said, students do have the option of taking some or all of their classes online. So a temporary leave might not be the best option right now, given the wide variety of modalities available. If a student does elect to take a temporary leave, again, please work with your academic advisor and make sure that you understand how financial aid and merit aid would apply. Again, as we mentioned with deferrals, typically that aid is still available if the student returns within a year. So, but really important to do that with the guidance of advisors, both academic and financial aid. And Dean Boland, what was your second question? Oh, study abroad, right? Yes, okay, so, and I will also, I'll actually throw this one to Dean Clark, who oversees the AU Study Abroad program.
Sure, I'm glad to. I'm Mary Clark. I'm the Dean of Faculty Deputy Provost. Among other things, I work with AU Abroad, and we have made the decision as of last Friday to suspend our study abroad for the fall semester. But I do want to assure you that there will still be opportunities for students to do coursework with our 3 AU premier sites abroad in Brussels, Madrid, and Nairobi, and also to do virtual internships with those sites. So if you have a particular interest in public health or in EU policy or in the arts in the Iberian Peninsula, I would encourage you to look at those opportunities and would be happy to entertain further questions. Thank you for the question.
Dean Clark, since you're up, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about our efforts in terms of internships in our Career Center, helping students to get jobs and practicals.
Sure, I'm glad to. So among other things, I also work with the Career Center, and we have a fabulous executive director, Gihan Fernando, who many of your students have worked with. Gihan has been quite intentional about identifying virtual internship opportunities for our students in the spring semester, now in the summer, and looking ahead to the fall. Gihan hosted a virtual job fair, an internship fair in mid-May that attracted approximately 140 employers to the fair and over 1,000 students. We'll be hosting another virtual internship and job fair in September for your students, and I strongly encourage them to participate. It has been a very fruitful opportunity. In addition to internships that will be hosted virtually, whether in the DMV District, Maryland, Virginia area, or more broadly, there will be opportunities on campus, and I want to highlight those as well. Opportunities for both undergraduate and graduate students to work with faculty, as well as administrative offices. Students can work as TAs and RAs, which is to say teaching assistants, research assistants with their faculty. And so many enrichment opportunities for our students, both on campus and then through internships off campus. Again, I would encourage your students to connect with our Career Center. The executive director is Gihan Fernando, an accomplished professional, and your student will be in good hands.
Thank you so much. Now we have a large number of questions around health and safety in our facility. And so I wanted to first mention that all of our classrooms have now been reevaluated for the proper physical distance spacing. Each of our classrooms will have maps outside as to where seats need to be, how many students can be in the room, where the faculty will stand, in order to make sure that we are abiding by the top CDC guidelines and DC guidelines around health and safety. In addition, our students and faculty and anyone on campus will be required to wear face coverings. Our research labs, our students will have access to their studio space and research labs. But again, all of these have been evaluated for the proper physical distancing, the number of students that will be able to be in there, and there will be a schedule around access to those facilities and also around cleaning. And so with that, for much more information, I'm going to turn it to my colleague, Dan Nichols, to discuss around specifically, could you share with us, Dan, around the procedures around cleaning classroom space and also shared spaces? And then it would be great if you could talk about how we're going to use the shuttle buses.
Sure, thank you very much. My name is Dan Nichols. I'm the Assistant Vice President for Risk Management at American University. And sorry about the lighting. There's a bad storm getting ready to come through my neighborhood. So if I lose the connections because of the storm. To Wendy's point, we've put together, as you see on the website, the health and safety plan that's going to guide us through the fall semester. It's been developed based on instruction and guidance from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the DC Department of Health. We followed guidelines from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, which put out guidance that's being followed by the mayor of the District of Columbia, as well as governors across the country to reopen their respective jurisdictions. And we're also following guidance from the Reopen DC Task Force, which was put together by the mayor of DC on how to incrementally return the city to normal operations. So it's a very comprehensive guide we've put together, and it's based on a number of factors surrounding reduced density. So as you know, we've reduced the number of students we're going to house in our residence halls in the fall semester. We are reducing the number of people in any given space across campus to include the classrooms, the dining locations, the auditoriums. And as Wendy said, those are going to be posted so that we can maintain the 6-foot physical distancing in those locations. As Wendy also said, we're going to have everyone required to wear face coverings at all times on campus, whether they are inside or outside. We expect everyone, faculty, students, and staff, to provide their own face coverings. For those who don't have that option, we do have a supply that we'll provide should that be necessary for individuals on a individual basis. We are going to have the UPass program operational in the fall. UPass program is a program we have with the WMATA, Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority. It provides a pass for our students to use, all the full-time students to use, for equivalent of $1 a day. That's unlimited ridership on buses and the subway throughout the system. Their metro is going to be on reduced operating capacity, so that's going to allow them to maintain physical distancing on the subway and also their buses. And they're also going to have increased cleaning of all of their vehicles and the subway cars. Likewise, American University, we have a very robust shuttle program as well that connects the campus to the metro stop at Tenleytown AU Metro stop. So we're going to have reduced capacity on our buses, and we're only going to allow affiliates to ride the shuttle program, no one else other than students, faculty, or staff. And again, we're going to have a very robust cleaning protocol to make sure that at the end of each circuit route, high-touch areas are cleaned. With regard to cleaning protocols across campus, we've hired additional facilities, support staff, and contractors to increase the frequency of cleaning on high-touch surfaces across campus and horizontal surfaces as well. The residence halls are going to have special attention to the common areas and the high-touch areas, such as elevator buttons, door handles, doorknobs, handrails, things of that nature. And we're also going to have hand sanitizing stations around campus so that as people walk around, they'll not only have visual cues as to what to look for and remind them to maintain the health and safety guidelines, they're also going to have the ability to continually wash their hands. So final point is we're going to have a mandatory training for everyone before they come back to campus. It's going to be an online training program that everyone has to go through to prepare everyone to enter into what we call a community of care. We understand that each individual has a responsibility for themselves, and by following that responsibility, they will have a shared responsibility with the community to make sure that by following these guidelines, we can have a safe and healthy community throughout the fall semester.
Thank you so much. And that leads us right into our next topic, which is really around health and the health of our students. Safety being a very important part of that, but I'm going to turn it over to our colleague, Dr. David Reitman, to talk about what our plans are for our students for tracing and tracking and also testing our students. And so David, I will turn it to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean Boland. So as she mentioned, my name is David Reitman. I'm the medical director for the Student Health Center, and I've been working very closely with Dan Nichols and everyone about protocols for safety and health for our students when they come back around these issues of testing and what happens if a student gets sick and that type of thing. So one of the things I just want to mention is that we will be doing extensive COVID-19 testing in the Student Health Center. We are in the process of procuring a large number of tests, so that with our goal being that anybody who wants a test should be able to get a test. That's something that the CDC has said is a goal, and that the mayor of DC has also set up as a goal, and we are doing the same thing. So any student who is coming into, who's developing any kind of symptoms that could be consistent with COVID-19, cold, cough, sore throat, fever, anything like that, will get a COVID-19 test. Any student who is at a rally and would like to have a test done after a rally or a protest will be able to get a COVID-19 test. We are expecting that we're working on some details about what these how these tests will be paid for. Insurances will be paying for any student for sure who's sick and we're doing a test for, and there'll be more details on that to follow. But the testing will be available with an expected turnaround time of about 2 days to get test results. If a student does test positive for COVID-19, we are going to have, and if they're living off campus, they will be expected to self-isolate in their own living space. And they will do so until they've met criteria for leaving a self-isolation that's set up by the CDC and the Department of Health, specifically being symptom-free for 3 days and a minimum of 10 days from the time that they actually started having symptoms. If a student is living on campus and they test positive for COVID-19, we will have a designated space for them to go where they will have their own place to sleep, their own bathroom, where they won't have to leave their room to go into the hall or be exposed to anyone else. We'll be arranging for food to be delivered to them, anything they're going to, whatever they're going to need to kind of keep them self-sufficient during that time. And we in the Student Health Center will have a process by which we will be checking in with the student and making sure that they are doing all right during this time when they are in self-isolation. Again, those students will be required to stay in self-isolation until they've met criteria by the CDC and the Department of Health that they can leave those spaces. Initially, when we were working through this process of contact tracing and how do we know who we need to quarantine if they've been exposed, we started developing some elaborate plans, and the Department of Health from DC actually came in and said, no, we're going to do this. We're the specialists in this. We're hiring 1,000 people to do contact tracing. So they've actually given us a directive that we are not to do our own contact tracing. They're professionals, and so what will happen is that as soon as somebody is identified as being diagnosed with COVID-19 by one of these tests that we're doing, Department of Health will then be notified. They will do contact tracing. They will contact the sick student, find out who they've been around, what's considered a high-risk contact. And let me just say that a student walking through a hallway and passing another student is not necessarily considered a high-risk contact. It would have to be students that there really is a direct contact with. And in those kind of situations, anyone that's considered to be a person under investigation, or just a person who has been exposed, should I say, will be expected to quarantine in their living space, in their residence hall. They will not go into a separate isolation space. So once again, we are doing all this stuff in lockstep with the Department of Health, with the CDC. None of the decisions that we're doing just on our own. This is all what we're doing with federal guidelines and local guidelines, but the goal being we want to keep our campus as safe and healthy as possible, knowing full well that college students are college students and we can't control every behavior, okay? And that college students are going to get involved in protests and that type of thing. This is going to be a big fall, we know that. But we're going to have lots of things in place to try and keep our students as healthy as possible and minimize risks of spread as much as we can. Okay. Other things, Wendy?
Thank you. And I may have missed it. Did you talk about the self survey at the beginning that students will get on the portal?
Yeah, so I did not mention that. Thank you. So students also will be required to, on pretty much a daily basis, to fill out a self-survey that will just, query them as to, do you have any symptoms of headache, sore throat, fever, that type of thing. If they do, they will be expected to answer this honestly. If they do have symptoms, then they will be expected to come to the Student Health Center for an evaluation every day and not expose themselves to other people by going to classes until they've been cleared. So.
Thank you so much. And I know many of you might be wondering, how are we going to enforce all this? And some people have asked, well, is the AU police going to be enforcing and making sure people have face coverings? The answer to that is no. As an educational institution, we feel very strongly that it's our job to educate and train. And as a community, it's all of our responsibilities to remind people of what are the safest practices to use. So in doing that, we will continue to educate, we will continue to train. That said, if we have someone who, in any member of our community, faculty, staff, or student, who's continuously not listening or abiding by the training and the educational methods, all of those groups of people are subject to their own individual code of conduct based on the university and the various university codes of conduct, and we will be able to take action in that way. But again, it is first our goal to really help to educate, to train, and discuss the importance of keeping our whole community safe, so more and more of us can come back to campus and learn and grow and be part of our wonderful, thriving community. So I did want to mention that. I know there is a lot of questions around housing, and so what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn a few questions to my colleagues from housing. Joy, I can start with you. Thank you. And if you could talk a little bit about where we are with housing, our approach right now. We know that there's housing application is now open, and we know that there was a little bit of a delay in when the initial announcement came out and when some of the housing information came out. So if you could talk about the housing information that is out and how we're going to move through that process, and then moving towards how we're going to help serve our upperclassmen.
Absolutely, Dean Boland. Just want to thank everybody for participating in this webinar. Communication is key here. And when the announcement went out, I do want to apologize because there was a slight glitch in our timing. We had hoped that the specific communication that went to each classification of students would have arrived in your inbox simultaneously with the communication. And we had specific communication to sophomores, to our incoming class, to our upper class, to students needing accommodation, athletes, etc. We wanted to make sure that the instructions were pointed and you knew exactly what you needed to do from here forth. I think the large message is, we have to revisit how we have students apply and assign rooms. We had to reduce our capacity. To David's point or Dr. Reitman's point, we needed to apply a principle of 1 student per room. And what that did was significantly reduce our capacity. Now, the questions that we've been getting on the housing side is, what does that mean? So similar to how we've always operated, we are prioritizing our freshmen and our sophomore students, but that does not mean that we have completely eliminated options for our upper class students. So right now, we are actively looking for additional off-campus housing. We can't give the details on the locations yet because right now the market is saturated. We're not the only university looking for this housing, but we are in active negotiations. And if any of you ever participated in any contractual negotiations, you know it can be easily compromised by releasing information too soon. But what I can tell you is what our priorities are in the negotiation for these properties. And we're prioritizing metro accessibility, retail availability, just making sure there are pharmacies, grocery stores nearby, making sure that these properties can actually meet our AU rate for housing as close as possible, at least. Making sure as well that the neighborhoods are safe and that the properties themselves can guarantee us certain management responsibilities around housekeeping, and that they are also aligned with the health and safety guidelines that we're implementing on campus. Just as soon as we have that information, we will be publishing that to the off-campus site. That link came in the email to our upper class students, and we encourage you to just check that on a daily basis. There are already properties there, apartment properties. We're seeking more apartment properties in the Tinleytown area, and with at least within a 10-mile radius to actually hold apartments. So that information will be forthcoming soon. So again, communication is key, checking in. We'll continue to email you with information as we have it. We want to keep all of our eagles as close to the nest as possible. Like Dean Waters, I'm an alum. I lived in the 6th floor in Anderson, and that was very integral to my AU experience. And I want that for everyone. So we are committed to doing the best we can to give you the housing if you so choose to come back and have an in-person experience. And we'll definitely keep you posted.
Thank you so much. I will just add to that. I know there are a lot of questions. Oh, and I see that my colleague Chris Silva has jumped on, so I'll give him the floor in a moment. But there have been a lot of questions around us requiring singles, and we are requiring singles for all of our students because of the health and safety around it. We know students are excited to live with certain roommates and things, and hang out on the floor, and they still will get to hang out together, of course, safely. But we do want you to know that the decision to go to all single singles on campus was one really of the health and safety of everyone. The thought of someone getting a cough and the roommate not knowing and being exposed was just too great for all of us to take on. But making sure that we continued to offer you those rooms at the double rate versus the single rate, knowing that that was our decision, but a decision that we felt was really important for all of our students. So with that, I see my colleague Chris Silva. I'll turn it to him for a little bit more information on housing, and then we'll move on to our next topic. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So two points of addition to the student housing process. Incoming first year students, the housing application is open, and the priority deadline is Tuesday, June 23rd. So please make sure that you complete that application again. It's a very quick process. You now have a few more options of buildings to choose from, different from before when you applied. So please go in and complete the application. Many of you have already done that, so thank you so much for doing it. Then the next step after that is June 30th. You will know where you're going to be living, what room number, what building. And we also hope that around that time, we'll also be providing with your detailed move-in date. Returning students, sophomores, the application is open as well. The deadline is June 29th, and then July 7th, you have the the new room selection process. So please make sure that you follow these guidelines and follow these processes. Once again, thank you everyone for already applying and connecting with us. The way to communicate with our office, of course, emails, phone calls, but also I highly encourage you to use the chat function that is available to communicate with our staff. It's actually a very fast way and a very streamlined way. We have lots of colleagues available. We are getting a great traction and much faster than a phone call and an email to get your questions answered. So every day 10 to 4, we're available there with answering questions on the chat. So thank you very much for your support and your patience, and please know that we definitely want to work with you and support you in all different ways, whether that is living with us in our buildings or helping you find an off-campus property. So thank you.
Thank you so much. If our colleague Lisa Friedman is on, Lisa is going to talk to us a bit about the experience for campus life on campus and some of our efforts around that. So it would be great, Lisa, if you're there, to talk to us a little bit about the campus experience.
I am. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to emphasize the importance of all of the attendees to know that we have a community of folks that are here to support you. The student experience, we all know, is an integral part of how students experience college, and we want to make sure that we are maintaining the highest level of engagement, knowing and understanding that we all are forced to make some modifications. The primary focus and responsibility of all of us is health and safety. And while we have had to make some adaptations to how we engage, what I found is across the country of colleges and universities is that we're all in a very similar situation. And we're leaning on each other and we're sharing information about how we can maximize the experience that we can create for students, knowing that similar to the classroom, creating a hybrid, we too are going to be creating some hybrid ways of approaching engagement for students. I'm the director of residence life, so I oversee the residential experience. And a part of what we do is through collaboration. And so when I look at Dean Waters and our learning community programs, we have been working to think about how we can integrate what students are going to be learning both in the classroom with what they're going to be, how they can engage that and apply that in the residence halls. Most of which will be virtual. But there will be no shortage of support and resources available to students as they are living directly in the residence halls or living in potentially one of our master lease areas. Our focus still remains the same: to create a sense of community, to help students feel a part of this sense of belonging, and that every student knows that they have a community of care. I like to call it the village. There's a village of people there that are here to support you. Every one of our residence halls and those spaces that we master lease will have resident assistants. which means there'll still be that student leader that's there to support students, to offer resource, assistance, mentorship, whatever students might be looking for. The same can also be said about our response to safety concerns. We want students to feel that they have a host of folks that are there to ensure student safety and overall well-being. It's not surprising. This is a difficult time for all of us. The overall well-being of our students, our families, our communities are at the forefront of our hearts and in our minds. And we're thinking about that, and we're giving strong consideration to how we can continue to foster that sense of connection and community for our students. My area is working closely with the Center for Student Involvement, the Center for Diversity and Inclusion, many of the units that have such high touch with students, high contact with students. We are all working together in partnership to make sure that we can provide a unique experience for students, an experience that will foster community, and a sense of how students can feel connected to the campus. We're excited to be going into phase 2, as Wendy said earlier, and we're going to capitalize on that. We're going to take advantage of the many opportunities that DC has available to students, but we want to do so in a responsible way, and we want to do so in a way that shows consistency in the messaging and in all of the planning that's gone forth. Health and safety is going to be in our focus and in our priorities, but I want you to know that everybody on this panel, every administrator, faculty, staff are here to make this year just as much of a purposeful and exciting experience for each student that'll be on our campus.
Thank you so much, Lisa. To add to the student experience piece, I'm going to turn it back to Dean Waters for a minute. See if you could, we do have some questions about the concern, especially from parents of new students, about their ability to really connect with the community and feel a part of AU. And so I'd love for you to talk a little bit about AUX and complex problems and how that's really been one of our priority focuses as part of our plan for our new students. And if you could follow up with that, talking a little bit about academic support services.
Thank you. All my favorite topics. In our first year experience, we have really deliberately built out part of our AU core, which is our general education curriculum. We've built out the first year experience in a really significant way, and in a holistic way and in a way that is designed to meet students where they are. Hopefully, if we are doing our jobs right, a first year student and a senior graduating student have really different needs. And we have set up our academic program and our academic support to meet that. So in our first year, all of our students take a course that we call the American University Experience. We call it AUX1 and AUX2. And AUX1, all of our first year students take in their first semester, and it is designed to help students transition to college. And that has frankly become all the more important as we transition to college in a way that really no one has done before. So all of our first year students take that class, and they importantly take that class with their first year advisor, so their first year academic advisor, who are also faculty in our School of Education. Those first year advisors have no more than 76 students, and they are teaching those same 76 students in this transition to college class. And that class will focus, and we're shifting the curriculum as we speak to recognize new needs of our students. We'll focus on how do you succeed in this new environment? How do you find community? How do you figure out academic planning? What are the academic resources and other resources available on campus to you? So our first semester is really designed to focus on academic skill building, focus on finding community, how to be in community, and that question of that community of care. And so first year students work very directly with first year advisors in small seminars of 19 students or fewer. Our first year students also take what we call our complex problem seminars, and these are really the hallmark of the first year experience. Every student has the opportunity to elect into a complex problem seminar, again, 19 students or fewer, and taught by our top-notch faculty. Our faculty actually have to compete to teach in this program, and they propose courses in their passion areas, their research areas, the things that sort of like set their minds on fire, and they communicate that with our students. Dean Clark actually taught one last year for our first year students. And again, 19-person seminars where when we think about support and we think about community, we've talked about academic advisors, but our faculty are such a critical piece of that. I say to students as often as I can, go to office hours virtually, in person, however we're doing them, early and often, right? Faculty are there because we like teaching, right? We like to interact with students and we want to communicate these things that we've spent our life researching and thinking about. So really using faculty to build that in that first year experience. So in that first year, AUX, for every incoming student, 19 students or fewer in those classes, transition to college, and the complex problem seminars, again, 19 students or fewer, taught by our world-class faculty. The question of academic support is also built into all of these programs. So I talked about that transition to college class. We're actually working very closely with our academic coaches, for example, as we're redesigning that class to make sure that we've incorporated the new skills that students will need in a new online environment. Our writing center will be at full capacity and able to offer all the services we always do. The math and stats lab will offer the same support for quantitative courses across the university, first year and beyond. Our academic advisors remain fully available. We're investing in additional tutors in some of our classes that we know can be challenging for students. Economics comes to mind, and making sure that there is peer support in the classroom for students as well. And importantly, as we talk about these small classes and peer support and peer tutors, that's another way our students find community, because they're connecting with students who have done it before. Right? Students who have been through that first year experience and may have stumbled or have really succeeded, and can share those experiences and lessons learned with our incoming students. So all of these places where we think about academic support, I think a hallmark of the AU experience is how we incorporate the academic support, the peer support, the faculty support in small classes embedded in these really unique experiences, designed to meet students where they are and meet students where they are in this new environment.
Thank you so much. If I could turn to some of my colleagues in the Office of Financial Aid, we did just have a webinar right before this on some of the financial aid concerns, but if I could turn to either my colleague Brian or my colleague Charlene to just discuss the general questions around financial aid, that financial aid is still there regardless of course modality, and some of the primary questions that our students and parents may have, that would be wonderful.
Yes, hello, hi.
Thanks, Brian. Yep.
Hi, yeah, this is Brian Lee Sang from Financial Aid Office. I just wanted to make clear that with financial aid, as far as general questions are concerned, I know that we were getting a lot of questions with regards to when our award package is going out, and we already had for our continuing students, awarding students about a week and a half ago, with the goal of getting all of our awards out by July 1st. Right now, we're kind of going through some, and students should have received an email notification that they can check their award packages now. We also recognize that in this time of COVID, that there are many changes in families' financial circumstances, and if you're experiencing a change in your financial circumstance, feel free to contact our financial aid office, and we'll try to take a look and see what we can do. As far as the fall plan is concerned, that plan in itself does not impact the student financial aid at all. And the courses that students take in terms of whether or not they are in hybrid courses, online classes, or in-person classes does not impact the eligibility of aid, the amount of aid that a student receives. Whether or not a student is on campus or off campus also does not impact the level of financial aid that a student can receive, or the amount of financial aid they can receive. If you applied for financial aid, so the components that we look at is the cost of attendance, and we then look at your application. And we factor in the full cost of attendance includes room, board, fees, and things of that nature. So whether or not you're on campus or off campus, we do account for housing cost within the budget. And so we award students according to that. If you're living off campus or find yourself now off campus in non-university housing, you still will qualify for the same aid that you've qualified before, and it will be paid to your students' accounts. And because you're only being charged tuition if you're not in non-university housing, it would appear as a credit and then be refunded to the student in the form of an ACH or a check. If you are anticipating getting a refund because you're getting aid in excess of tuition and have not signed up for ACH, I recommend doing so, as it's the fastest and quickest way for you to be able to get your refund check if you qualify for it.
Thank you so much, Brian. I appreciate it. We do have some questions regarding the academic calendar, and so I will start by trying to address some of those. As you likely saw in the plan and in our president's letter, we will be changing how we do fall break this year. We will not be, it is the new fall break, and that is where we will be developing our Skills Institute and a variety of skill sets for our students to participate in, with the hopes that our students will stay local. We do know that exposure increases when people travel, and so we have, put in place a variety of activities and learning opportunities for our students throughout that weekend to be able to participate and stay on campus with us. That doesn't mean that they have to stay exactly on campus, but of course we're hoping that our students will stay local in order to not expose themselves any further. In addition, we have decided that all of the face-to-face portions of our courses will end prior to the Thanksgiving break. This will allow students to get home to enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday with their families, and then they will complete their courses, the remaining week or so of courses and finals, in an online capacity. Again, the reason for this is because it reduces the cost to families and to students who are trying to travel for the holiday, and it also lessens the amount of exposure. If we send a lot of people home into different places and then bring them back, that could impact our community. In addition, about exposure, we are having a no visitors policy. Only people that are working on campus, teaching and going to school on campus will be allowed on campus this fall. I know that it's difficult for a lot of people, and students want their friends to be able to come and families, but due to exposure and making sure we're abiding by the best, safest practices, it is important that we limit and do not allow visitors to campus this year. This fall, my apologies. In addition, we know that will impact how move-in is done, and so you'll be provided more information about how move-in will be done. If those of you who have participated in move-in with us before, that we have teams of people and we move in people really quickly with a lot of help. Of course, we can't put that many people in spaces the way we used to, and so we will have a new approach to move-in, and that will be communicated. This is the same with orientation and some of the other activities that we regularly, that we conduct each year. So that's very important. If my colleague and soon to be our new provost at this university is on, Peter Starr. Peter, I'd love for you to be able to talk a little bit about some of the resources that we're giving our faculty and what our faculty are working on right now.
So we have, one of the things I want to echo something that Lisa Friedman said, which I think is absolutely apposite of pertinent to American University. This is an extraordinary community. I spent 24 years at another institution, and I will tell you that this community comes together in ways that that institution and any other higher education institution I've ever known do not. We had our president likes to tell a story about a family who has two students. One is at my alma mater, the other is at American University, and tells the story that American University rocked the spring in ways that my alma mater did not, and we're only going to do better. As Jessica and Wendy have suggested, we're going to do much better in the fall. What we are saying to our faculty is unleash your creativity. Think through the ways in which you can use this and do exciting new things. So for example, one of the things that we have a lot of trouble with actually is art ensembles, because how are you going to get 30 people together into a small space singing? We know singing is a risk. Our art faculty, our performing arts faculty, is thinking about wiring up the entire Katzen Art Center such that we can get multiple people singing together in a physical distance modality in ways that are safe, but also continue their arts education, in this case, their music education. This is the kind of commitment that you're finding from American University's faculty, and it's something that makes everybody on this call, including all my many deans who are in the back of the house, very, very proud.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I wanted to, I will turn it back over as she appears to Dean Clark to talk a little bit about some of the technology resources, and in addition to our Center for Teaching and Learning, Teaching Research and Learning, I should say, and some of the different opportunities we're providing for our faculty in terms of workshops.
Sure, glad to do so. So our Center on Teaching, Research, and Learning has been working on what they call instructional continuity ever since March 12th to support our faculty in moving to the online instructional modality. And now they're doubling down on their work over the summer. They are continuing to have workshops training all of our faculty full-time as well as part-time on different techniques for teaching online, for blended teaching, which is to say face-to-face together with the online. And importantly, they're talking about instructional design and inclusive pedagogy. So it goes beyond simply the technology, which is essential. It's table stakes, as some would say, and building on that with the instructional design. What are our learning outcomes that we are focused on in any given course or curriculum, and how best to achieve those through our instruction? Likewise, how best to embrace our values and principles of inclusive excellence through our pedagogy, and how can we help support our faculty in achieving those values and principles through online modalities as well as face-to-face and blended. We are investing significantly in our classrooms to make sure that we are able to teach students simultaneously face-to-face as well as online, so that the student who is online feels as a full participant in the class with those who are there face-to-face, because we recognize that some students simply are not able to come back to campus, and those students should be fully embraced and integrated into the classroom experience. With that in mind, we're investing in various microphone and camera equipment in order to promote that experience. We are also looking to appoint teaching assistants to assist our faculty with integrating both the face-to-face and the online experience. There's much more that we're doing, but that gives you some sense of the degree of our commitment and our investment in providing your students with first-rate instruction.
Thank you so much. We do have some questions around dining and students' ability to dine together. Again, we will be putting various measures into our dining halls to and reducing capacity in our dining halls. We will not be using buffet style dining. We will also be using technology to allow for students to order food and come in and pick it up versus sitting in spaces. So there will be a lot of efforts around dining safety to ensure that our students get a variety of food choices and great food choices in addition to the rest of our community, but can do that in a safe manner. And so while we will have some spaces for students to sit and dine, again, those will have to be physically distant so that we can ensure the safety of everyone. Okay, so let's see, looking at all my questions here, and I think we've covered a lot of them, but I do want to open it up for additional questions that may have come in. I first want to mention that there have been a variety of questions around student fees, and we're well aware of that. We are watching that information. I want you to know that we are working on that, actively working on that, and that there's new information that will be coming soon. It's forthcoming, but we have heard from our students and our parents, and we are absolutely working to see what can be done in that space. So I don't have a wonderful answer for you yet today, but I promise you it is being worked on and that information will be forthcoming. In addition, there are a variety of frequently asked questions up online. We are working a little bit. We know that there was some trouble in sorting through those questions and finding some of the answers. those questions and answers are up there, and our team is working to make that a little bit more user friendly so that you can find the answers that you need quickly and on various topics. So that is in the works. I will also mention that please feel free to keep checking the frequently asked questions. As we're getting new information, whether it's on housing or on aid or on academics, we're going to continuously updating. We've been updating them all a lot over the last couple of days even, and adding to them. And so as we see questions that repeatedly come up, we're making sure that we're getting those answers up there and making any adjustments that we need. And so please keep asking your questions so that we can be aware and we can make sure to share the most up-to-date information that we have for you. Okay, so with that, I will turn it over to my colleagues to pose some of the questions that have come in.
Wendy,
Yeah.
we're getting some questions about how things will work with the library for the fall.
Wonderful. So our library will be open in the fall. We are working with our library team now to determine how we will take care of our, collections and how we will allow people to access different things, of course, with the proper cleaning of those collections between students. Also looking at how the facility itself, in terms of students working in the library, will be arranged and will be conducted. And so we were working actively with our library staff there, but we will have updated hours and updated procedures as to how the library will be used in the fall. But we understand that our students would like access to the library and our wonderful library resources, and we are actively working with the team to develop that plan, and we'll make sure that it's shared as soon as it's available.
Okay, Wendy, some other folks had questions, maybe Jess can help with these, about how these fall plans will affect things like LLCs with the University College or the mentorship program.
Great.
I'd be happy to jump in. So our LLCs are our living learning communities, and those are designed so that students, particularly in our first year class, can live in close proximity to each other in a socially distanced way this fall, but also take classes together. And the idea is it's a way that we form community. And we were able to actually get quite a bit of practice with this in the spring when we had to unexpectedly go online, and we had students living in these living learning communities. So we have found just incredibly creative ways to allow students to continue to engage with other students who share their passions and their interests, and engage with the faculty members who have been teaching those courses through a bunch of different online platforms, really creative student leaders, and also importantly, finding ways to provide experiences that students can share. One of the things that is the hallmark of what AU does so well is our commitment to the community and our students' commitment to giving back. So, for example, in one of our learning communities, our community-based research scholars program, we've already lined up that the scholars who are entering into that learning community in the fall will be working to do tutoring in DC public schools online. And we've already set up that partnership because we know that when students are engaging with others and contributing to the community and helping others, not only does it enhance their sense of belonging, but it enhances their learning. So we're working to really make sure that we keep those types of community building experiences going in our learning communities.
Thank you. Next question.
We had some folks asking what happens if their student who might be living off campus is looking for a place to just hang out or study between classes on campus. What kind of spaces might be available to them?
Great. That's a great question because I think I have a good answer to that. So one of the silver lining with our reduced classroom sizes due to the physical distancing requirements has been that we have a large number of classrooms that we have been able to designate for our students to work in groups, hang out, have lunch, and work on projects, research, anything that they want. And so what we wanted to make sure we could do was really open up a large number of spaces all across campus for our students to do these things. We felt that, one way that we could really use the space that we have and ensure that health and safety is to provide as many of these opportunities for our students. I know that our graduate students have been really interested in these opportunities, especially in their ability to advance some of their research, share their ideas with their fellow graduate students, and to really move forward on all of the things that they're doing on campus. And I know that's at the undergraduate level also. Just in my role, I hear more from the graduate students, but we know that this is extremely important. And again, like I said, the silver lining of having to really reduce the space in rooms is that we have a huge number of rooms that are going to be available for that use specifically. In addition, we're really holding a lot of our beautiful outdoor spaces. As you know, our campus is a beautiful arboretum, and we are able to hold that space for our students to enjoy the space, to sit out on the grass, to enjoy the fresh air, especially on days that it's beautiful or on days that it's raining, whatever they want to do, but to really enjoy our outdoor space and being in DC as part of that experience, and making sure that that is a space that is reserved for our students, our community, to come together safely. In addition, some of the events that we may have, smaller events and things like that, will likely be held in spaces like outdoors, so that we can bring people together in that space and do that in a very safe manner.
And Wendy, if I can jump in, speaking as a parent as well as an educator, I'll share that I'm the mother of two 18-year-olds, and I know what the impact of this spring has been on my sons, the level of social isolation that they've had. So I think for AU to provide opportunities for students to come together in a safe manner, but in a manner where they have comradeship and have shared interests and activities, it's so critically important for the well-being of our students, for their mental and emotional, physical well-being. So for those parents who are out there who may have similar experiences to me, I just want to underscore how intentional we've been about creating those types of spaces, recognizing the value of those relationships that our students must have in order to be happy and healthy.
I think it's also worth noting that there will be spaces for a gathering in the residence halls. So actually in the buildings where our first year students are living, we will have spaces set aside so that students can gather in a safe way. And also things like our student run coffee shops are going to be available for our students, again, in a socially distanced way. So we're making sure that some of those things, for parents on the call, those of you that attended a residential college, that experience of being in the residence hall and seeing other students and having those midnight conversations and grabbing coffee with friends, we're really endeavoring to make sure that we can create those spaces both in person but also virtually for students who may not be able to join us in the fall.
Absolutely, thanks. Have another question?
Okay, Wendy, I'm going to back up a little bit. And given the trends for COVID around the country right now, they're very unpredictable. And so if we could just kind of revisit what we might expect if a student does test positive and what those sort of like isolation accommodations look like on campus. And also, if a student has to self-quarantine, does that mean that their grades are going to suffer? Like, how can we support them through their illness if they have one this fall?
So let me start with the last part, which is in supporting students around their academics as this happens. We have put a variety of measures in place and support teams to make sure that we're reaching out to our students, to helping them the ability to pause their academic coursework if they need to while they're getting better, making sure that they have food and dining. We have an entire dorm that will be reserved specifically for isolation space, where students there would have their own bathroom and their own space to be able to self-isolate and make sure that we're getting them better. So, we are very aware that our academic policies need to be flexible and ready to respond if a student does face a medical anything medical, whether it's COVID-19 related or not. And so those mechanisms are absolutely in place, and teams of people ready to respond to that. if that was to come up. In terms of the more health related things, I will turn it back over to my colleague, Dr. Reitman. If you can talk a little bit more about that piece. Thank you.
Okay, sure. And I think just one thing that I wanted to first say, mention to answer that question a little more is that we've had well-oiled mechanisms for years. When a student gets sick, about how to notify faculty if necessary, how the student needs to email the faculty, and then how accommodations can be made in given circumstances. So we've seen lots of students get sick with lots of things, mono and strep and stuff and that kind of thing, where they've had to be out of class for a while. So we are there. This is an amplification of what we already have. Any student who actually tests positive for COVID-19, once that test comes back positive, what's going to happen is that we're going to activate a system in which the student is going to physically move from their residence hall into one of these isolation into the isolation residence hall. Let me just say, in that residence hall, they will have their own room with their own bathroom. They will have food brought to them as much as they need, and they will get in, and they will also be in contact with a member of the student health center team at least once a day, prior to them being released from isolation when they're no longer sick. Let me also just mention that what we because of the contagiousness and all this about with regard to COVID, what we're not going to be able to do is have the student be coming back and forth from the isolation space and leaving there and going to the student health center and going back and forth. If a student were to be feeling like they're getting a lot sicker, we actually have ways to get to get public safety involved to actually get them transported to the emergency room if they thought they were going to be having any kind of respiratory issues that can sometimes accompany COVID-19. One of the things that we are going to be sending mailings home and emails to students about is the kind of things they need to bring to campus this year, which is a little different. We always kind of recommend a little kit with Band-Aids and aspirin and Tylenol. This year we're really going to be recommending very strongly that students bring their own thermometers so they can take their temperature, as well as going online to Amazon or any place where they can get a small O2 sat monitor, an oxygen saturation monitor, so they can actually measure their oxygen levels, which will answer the question for them if they were in isolation or if they're in their own residence hall and they're really not feeling well and they're wondering, do I need to go to the emergency room or can I go to the student health center? What's the acuity here? They'll be able to get a measurement of that if they have one of these things, and you can buy them on Amazon, like I said, for $15, $30. We're going to recommend that all students have them available as another way that they can actually be able to gauge in this event that they were to have COVID. Okay, am I feeling sick because it feels bad to have COVID, or am I starting to get worse in a clinical way that needs to get more care? But like I said, one of the things that our staff will be doing in the health center is asking students every day, what are your oxygen levels and what is your temperature, and really trying to assess, do we need to elevate the level of care that the student's getting. So there's been more to come on that for sure. I just want to also mention that, as people saw probably from many of the emails that I sent out in the spring, we've had students with COVID-19 on campus in this past spring. This is, we know how to do this. We're going to take good care of our students. That's what we're here for. Okay.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Next question. I know everyone's been hearing from us for a while now, so.
You're doing great.
David, there's a lot of questions.
I can.
Sorry, I was going to say, David, this is Amanda. There's been a lot of questions from families on the webinar about students who are living off campus and the support that they might receive and could expect if they do contract COVID.
Okay, so what I would say is for students who live off campus, they absolutely can, are still going to be seen in the student health center. So we take care of any American university student, undergrad, grad, as long as they're taking at least one credit, they can be seen in the student health center. Doesn't matter what anyone's insurance is or anything like that. So if one of them were to come in with symptoms and we were to test them, And once again, they would be notified 2 days later if their test came back positive. They're going to be actually doing their isolation at home in their own space. We're not going to have them be in an make them move to an isolation space on campus. This is just the way that anybody would be living if they were at home with their family and they were to contract it. They wouldn't be moved outside of their home. And so once that happens, same kind of thing as I just discussed, we're going to be having them on a regular basis in contact with our student health center staff. And again, if things were happening where they were feeling like they were getting significantly worse, we would give them instructions, work with them on how to get them, them to get transported to the nearest hospital emergency room if they need to get a higher level of care than what we'd be able to provide them either at home or in the student health center.
Okay, great. There were some folks who were curious if we've gotten to the point yet of thinking about AU abroad for the spring. And if they're thinking about AU abroad for the spring, what kinds of steps might they take now?
So I'll take that. Thank you. We've not made any decisions about AU abroad for the spring. What guided our thinking for the fall were specifically the CDC assessments and the State Department assessments, and that would guide our thinking for the spring as well. So just to give families and students an understanding, insight into what our thinking is, it's fairly transparent. What we did for this fall and what we'll do for this spring is to have students register express interest for study abroad, but simultaneously be registering for courses on campus, because that provides for a much easier pivot as between the two, given the uncertainties, given the challenges of projecting forward to January, what the state of the world will be. So I think that is the safest way to plan. We're very mindful of the great interest in study abroad. It really is one of the hallmark experiences of being an AU student at both the undergrad and the graduate level. And we desperately wish to provide our students with these opportunities, but to do so safely and quite intentionally. So we'll be keeping our eyes on these different markers, if you will, and there will be open communication with students and with families about our decision making.
Thank you. We have time for a couple more questions, if there are any.
We're getting a lot of questions around move-in. Any information on move-in, especially will families be able to accompany their students on move-in?
Great. Is my colleague Chris Silva still on the call? Thank you, Chris. It's so lovely. I say your name and you appear. That's fantastic.
It's just magic. So that, yeah, definitely we're receiving many questions from students and families about move-in, and certainly we know that they want to plan, and we also know that move-in is an experience, a passage and a transition. And as Wendy was saying earlier, we really pride ourselves in having a great and really well supported move-in experience. The focus of this year is going to be making sure that we bring our students in with the greatest concern for health and safety. And so move-in will be spread out across multiple days. And we're still ironing out all the different details, but it'll be spread out during the week of August 17th through the 21st. And students will be receiving their specific move-in day and their move-in time along with their housing assignment. We certainly understand that families, friends, and other family members want to participate and support the student during that process. We are taking that into account in our planning effort. We also have taken into account that the more people that come to campus, the more people that are around others, that does impact our concern and our planning to reduce density. And so we are taking those into account. And so we're looking into different models. Perhaps there's a limited number of family members, individuals that will come and be able to support students during that move-in time. We're also looking to shortening the window of time that individuals and families are here inside the residence halls and inside the room with the student. And so we're taking all those elements into account, and we'll be publishing those details, both of the process and those dates, along with the move-in once the assignments are completed. We're also, as a note, going to be augmenting the move-in process to reduce the number of items that students have to bring to campus, with a solution that individuals can ship their items before coming to campus as a way to facilitate your arrival. So we're looking at all these different options so that we can make the move-in process a safe experience, as well, still a memorable experience and a good marker of transition, as we have always done in our previous move-ins, as it is a celebration of the start of the fall semester.
Chris, I would just add to that. We are also looking at creative ways to involve families from a distance, whether that's like virtual sharing of the space, maybe facilitating that through our own website. And the other important point too is that we still have our moving company that helps us and keeps this organized, so that students don't have to be concerned with carrying their items up to their rooms. Like, we still have that service. I think the only missing element this year that we prided ourselves on in previous years is that the entire AU community would get together, welcome our students, and help them with their belongings. We just can't do that now for safety reasons, but most of the other elements will still be in place, and we're hoping to virtually still give you that same sense that you're dropping your child off to school and you can be in full participation of that, even if it's from a distance.
Thank you. So I wanted to mention, we have just a couple minutes left, and we'll go through and thank everyone for joining us. But I do see a few questions around, will we relax our restrictions as we move forward? And I just want to stress that we can't wait until we can continuously relax our restrictions and all feel comfortable doing that, and that we're all safe and healthy and able to do that. And so absolutely, as I mentioned at the beginning, our plan is about being flexible, is about adjusting to the ever-changing environment, both if there's additional spikes, but also if things are going great and the numbers are going down, and we can feel that we can have more people on campus and really increase our class sizes, et cetera, et cetera. So I can't stress enough that all of our goal is to return to campus in what we consider the most normal of circumstances, where everyone is thriving and learning and growing together, and really, sharing in the amazing campus that we have, and all of the learning that we can provide. So I do want to stress that. And so absolutely, the guidelines are changing daily, and we are looking at them every day as they change and making adjustments. And it's for that reason that we will continue to make adjustments. While we may not have all the answers right now because things are changing, but we will continue to provide you with more and more information. I want to stress one more time that what we want from this plan is the best for you and your family, for you and your student. If it's completely online, if it's a blended modality, if you're local but you still feel like your student would best serve living at home, whether it's commuting to campus or taking courses online. The purpose of this plan is to keep everyone safe, everyone healthy, but also to be able to provide the best instruction that we possibly can. And as all my colleagues have shared with you, we are bringing in more and more resources and technology every day to be able to do that. And so I just want to stress that we are here to work with you, to collaborate. We will continue to hear your concerns, to listen carefully to them, and do our very best to address them in the best possible way that we can, again, with health and safety at the center of all of those decisions. Please continue to look out for our frequently asked questions. As I mentioned, they're always going to be updated. We're updating them all the time, and you will be able to provide a lot of get a lot of your questions answered there. Finally, I just hope that you continue to collaborate with us. We can't thank you enough for your concern, your care, your cheering us on as we've been working through this plan. I can tell you so many people on this call and so many of our faculty and staff, really all of our faculty and staff, are working every day to put the best possible plan together because we care so much about the AU community and everything that we want to make sure that we can bring to our students. And there is nothing any of us want more than for this to be behind us and to grow from this and to just, you know, do all that we can to make the best out of this situation. So with that, I want to make sure we thank you for your time. I want to thank all of my amazing colleagues that have joined me. And again, I hope that you stay safe. You and your families stay well. We look forward to connecting with you. And you know this will not be the last webinar we have this summer. I'm sure there'll be many more. So please, you know, reach out to us, submit your questions, and we will continue to do this as we move forward and as our plans change. So thank you so much and have a wonderful evening.